Hello duelists, Rustmarrow here, and today we are going to be opening the brand new structure deck, Master Link. So first let's take a look at the playmat that comes together with this structure deck. It's blue in color and it features a bunch of the brand new Cyberse monsters. Here on the left we have Microcoder, followed by Talkback Lancer. Then in the middle we have the brand new Shootingcode Talker, the last of the 6 Code Talkers. And finally on the right we have Code Radiator. So let's get right into things with the main card of this deck, the last of the 6 Code Talkers, the WATER-attribute Shootingcode Talker. So design-wise, I think Shootingcode is very unique and different from the other Code Talkers, especially because of the wings and the bow type weapon, but it still looks very good. So in order to link summon Shootingcode, you're going to need 2 or more Cyberse monsters. Its first effect can be activated at the start of the battle phase. During this battle phase, Shootingcode will be able to attack enemy monsters up to the number of times there are monsters at its link, +1. So by right, the maximum number of times Shootingcode will be able to attack is 4, but due to the arrangement of the arrows, you'll only be able to attack up to a maximum of 3 times, because I mean, if Shootingcode's in your extra link zone, you'll only have these 2 available, because on the left there'll be no zones, and when Shootingcode's in your main monster zone, you won't be able to access a monster in this arrow pointing to the spell trap zones below. But unfortunately, when you activate this effect, if Shootingcode attacks a monster while the opponent only has 1 monster on the field, its attack power will decrease down to 1900, which is sort of a flaw, but of course if you calculate which monsters you attack first depending on what monsters the opponent has on the field, you should be able to bypass this flaw quite easily. Its second effect can be activated at the end of either your or your opponent's battle phase. Draw cards equal to the number of monsters Shootingcode Talker destroyed by battle this turn. So in combination with its first effect, it can potentially be a very powerful draw engine, but even if you don't have a lot of monsters at Shootingcode's link, it still basically guarantees you like 1 extra draw in each turn, which I mean, if you guys play Yu-Gi-Oh enough, you guys definitely know that is extremely powerful already. So I think Shootingcode Talker is definitely a very unique, special and potentially powerful card in the Cyberse deck, but the main drawback is that disregarding its first and second effects, its attack power is only 2300 and it has no effects that are able to like boost its power. I mean, even the first effect actually ends up reducing its power to 1900 in certain cases instead. So even though it seems to be like a very powerful extra draw engine, I am not too certain how effective it will actually be due to the low amount of power it has, especially for a link tree monster. So up next, let's take a look at the next card, and it's going to be an ultra rare Microcoder. So both of these card names effects can only be used once per turn each. If you need to use a Cyberse monster as material to link summon a Code Talker monster, you can use this card from your hand as link material. Its second effect is, when this card is sent from either the hand or the field to the graveyard as link material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, you can add 1 Cybernet spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, and if this card was sent from the field instead of a Cybernet spell trap, you can search for a Cyberse level 4 monster instead. So I'm really liking what I see here. It's really solid support for like the Code Talker archetype, so I think we can really expect, like, now with the second season of Reigns, we can expect the Code Talker archetypes to really branch out and stand out as like a single series of cards on its own within Cyberse, differentiated from other newly revealed Cyberse archetypes such as the Salamangreats. Especially considering how powerful some of the Cybernet cards are, I definitely want to add this card to my deck. So let's look at the next card, and it's going to be a super rare Code Radiator. So this card is very similar to the Microcoder we just saw. Both of these card names effects can only be activated once per turn. Its first effect is exactly the same. When you need a Cyberse monster as link material to link summon a Code Talker monster, you can use this card from your hand as link material instead. And its second effect also triggers when this card is sent from either the hand or the field as link material for a Code Talker monster. But instead of a search like Microcoder, you're allowed to target one of your opponent's face-up monsters, make its attack power 0 and negate its effects. And if this card was sent from the field instead of the hand, you can target up to 2 of your opponent's face-up monsters. So I have to say that, wow, all of this Cyberse and Code Talker support is really coming together with this Master Link deck, and that is really sick. This is definitely another card I want to put, and for level 4 monster with 1.6k attack, like if you're out of options, I guess it could serve as like an OK beater as well. And up next, it looks like we're going to have a continuous magic card, and it's going to be Cybernet Optimize. This card name's first effect can only be activated once per turn. You can activate this card during the main phase, and right after this activation resolves, normal summon a Cyberse monster. However, after you activate this effect, you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck other than Cyberse monsters. And its second effect is, as long as this card is on the field, when one of your Code Talker monsters engages in battle, your opponent cannot activate spell, trap, or monster effects until the end of the damage step. So from that second effect, you can really see that, oh my god, they're really pushing for a lot of support for the Code Talker archetype right now. And the first effect as well, I mean, it's not super great, but I mean, it does help to help you get link materials on the field as well. So pretty nice support over there. And now here's another continuous trap. Oh, I mean a continuous spell, but just look at that awesome looking artwork with like the 6 Code Talkers united like that. We have like all of them just facing each other in a circle. It's just so cool. And it's gonna be Cybernet Codec. So a card with this name can only be activated once during the same chain. Basically, when you special summon a Code Talker monster from your extra deck to your field, you can target that Code Talker to activate this effect. Search your deck for a Cyberse monster of the same attribute and add it to your hand. However, for the rest of this turn, you cannot use a Cybernet Codec to add a monster of the same attribute from your deck to your hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck other than Cyberse monsters. So, as you guys can see, there's really much more solid Code Talker support coming in this deck as well. And I think this is a really interesting card, which basically gives you, like, at a very minimum, it's a free search every turn as well, so long as you keep special summoning Code Talker monsters. And it looks like our next card is going to be an effect monster, and it's going to be Swap Priest. So this card name's effect can only be activated once per turn. When this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, you can increase the summoned link monster's attack by 500 as well as draw a card. So really good support for link summons in general and a level 2 monster as well. So up next we have another like normal parallel rare, and it's going to be Defcon Bird. So this card name's first effect can only be activated once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can discard another Cyberse monster to special summon this card from your hand. And its second effect is, when this card is on the field once per turn, when one of your Cyberse monsters is targeted for an attack, you can make that Cyberse monster double both its attack and defense. Furthermore, if that monster is in attack position, you can make it change to defense position instead. So just from the effect alone, you guys can tell that this is a really strong defensive card. I mean, especially considering its 1700 defense and the fact that it can use its own effect on itself. So I think it's pretty sick, and it's exactly what Cyberse needs, considering like the low stats that Cyberse cards generally have in favor of like comboing potential. And up next, another normal parallel rare is gonna be Prohibit Snake. So this card name's first and second effects can only be activated once per turn each. At the start of the damage step of a battle between one of your Cyberse link monsters and an opponent's monster, you can send this card from your hand to your graveyard, and then you can send that opponent's monster from the field back to the opponent's hand. Its second effect is, while this card is in your graveyard, when one of your Cyberse monsters is destroyed in battle by your opponent and sent to the graveyard, you can banish one card from your grave, then target one level 4 or lower Cyberse monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So a bit similar to Defcon Bird, its first effect is like quite defensive, but more like offensively defensive rather than defensively defensive. Although Defcon Bird's effects can be used quite offensively as well. But yeah, its second effect also really helps you to like recycle the Cyberse monsters in your grave, especially after your monsters are destroyed, and that's when you really need it the most, which I think is really good for like the Cyberse comboing potential. And up next, we've got Cybernet Conflict. So a card with this name can only be activated once per turn. Basically, if you have a Code Talker on your field and a monster effect, spell, or trap is activated, you can activate this counter trap to negate that effect and banish that card. And until the end of the next turn, your opponent cannot activate cards with the same original name as that banished card. So I mean, just typical negation and banishing, really solid, really powerful support. And up next, it looks like we're gonna have some Link monster support, starting with a familiar card from the series, Elphase. So you're going to need 2 level 3 or higher Cyberse monsters to Link summon Elphase. Its first effect is, this card's attack power increases by 300 for each of the monsters at its link, so already at 2000 attack it can go up to potentially 2600, making it a very strong beater for Link 2. And in this card name's second effect can only be activated once per turn. Basically, when this face-up Link summon card leaves the field, you can target one of the level 4 or lower Cyberse monsters in your grave and special summon it. But during the turn that it was special summoned using this effect, that monster's effect is negated and it cannot be used as link material. So essentially, I don't think the drawback to the second effect is very bad, because especially considering most of the time, Elphase will most likely leave the field when it's destroyed on your opponent's turn, so then you get that free link monster, that free Cyberse monster special summon, and then by the time your turn comes, its effect will be ready to go again, and then you can use it as link material. So I think Elphase is a really solid link 2 to have in your Cyberse deck. I'm definitely going to put it in mine. And up next, another Link monster, and it's going to be Talkback Lancer. So Talkback Lancer is special summoned using one level 2 or lower Cyberse monster. This card name's effect can only be activated once per turn. When this card is on the field, you can tribute a Cyberse monster on your field other than this card, then target one Code Talker monster in your graveyard that is of a different name from the tributed monster. Then you can special summon the Code Talker monster to this card's link. So what are we talking about here? Code Talker support, potentially free Code Talker monster summons every single turn. So I think this card is really sick, especially considering it's just a level 1, but of course it's going to be quite difficult to protect since it's only got 1200 attack, and considering the position of the link arrow, it will only be an effective card if you have it in your extra monster zone. But this is a card that I definitely want to try out in my Cyberse deck. And oh, I guess that will be all for like the cards with the special foiling, but of course this is another new card to introduce, and if you guys are caught up to the Vrain series, you guys should be familiar with this. This is practically one of Yusaku's favorite cards now, and this is gonna be Latency. So this card name's first and second effects can only be activated once per turn. When this card is added to your hand from your graveyard through an effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. And its second effect is when this card is special summoned using your first effect, and then sent to the graveyard from the field as a link material, you get to draw one card. So that's a really nice like bonus for like first recycling Latency and then using it as a material for link summon. But if you guys are caught up to the Vrain series, you guys should be familiar with this effect already, and it goes well with quite a number of other Cyberse cards, older ones of course. And now it looks like here's where the reprints begin, starting with Salvation Driver, and Cyberse Wizard of course, Yusaku's favorite card at the start, then Launcher Commander, followed by Bit Trooper, the evolution of Bitron, Backup Secretary, and then Cyberse Combatter, followed by Stack Reviver, of course one of my favorite early Cyberse cards, and Link In Flyer. I was not expecting a card like this to be in a Cyberse structure deck, but it's basically going to be the Swordsman of Sealing Swords, and this is the Battle Corpse of the Dead Dragon Destoldo, and next Chaos Sorcerer, Koke Koko, not very sure what its English name is, but what? Level 5 for those stats? Not very familiar with its effect though. And Electromagnetic Turtle, followed by of course Fire Hand, and of course Ice Hand right after that. And now moving into the traps, I think there's a new trap, Spool Code. So this is a quick play spell that can be activated when your opponent declares a direct attack while you have 3 or more Cyberse monsters in your graveyard. Basically, you negate the attack, and right after the attack ends, you can special summon 3 Spool tokens to your field. Of course, these tokens can't be tributed for a tribute summon, but if that was the opponent's last attack of the turn, you can definitely get ready to link summon a Code Talker on the next turn. The next one-time passcode, double summon, the Forbidden Book, Book of the Eclipse, and Hand Destruction. Great Pot of Greed, I'm not sure I've seen this card before. Terminal World. And on to traps, we have Cyberse Beacon, Return to the Front Lines, Typhoon, Breakthrough Skill, one of my favorite traps of all time, The Pranks of the Yokai, Waboku, I'm quite sure this is Waboku, Trap Hole of Skewered Spikes, I'm not sure what the English name is, sorry, I'm just translating the Japanese, and DD Grand. And of course we get a bonus in the form of a common Code Talker, but I think I mentioned this in an old video that this card, it isn't really useful, but it looks really nice and it's a pretty nice card to collect, although this makes my 3rd common Code Talker already. So that will be the end of this Structure Deck Master Link opening. On the whole, we got a lot of brand new cool support cards for the Cyberse archetype and the Code Talker series of cards. So I'm really excited to try playing around with some of these new cards. And I'm also looking forward to the future of the Code Talker series, because come on, now that they've released the 6 elemental Code Talkers, there has to be some new awesome combined ultimate form of the Code Talkers, maybe Link 4 sometime in the future. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, do give this video a like and let me know what you guys think about the new cards in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for future Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG openings on the day of release. Our next release is going to be sort of in the middle of July, and we're finally going to get our brand new main booster, Soul Fusion, where we'll get to finally see Soul Burner's Salamangreat archetype, as well as some new fusion summon cards as well. So make sure you guys check back for that. And with that, hope to see you guys in the next Yu-Gi-Oh! video. Let's access the spinning, swirling data storm, and with the wind our hearts are made to